All right. Good afternoon, all. We'll start up today. We got a couple things to go through, and then got time for questions because I know there's going to be some. So we have an update on the bomb that was found in the suspected drug house out in the 3100 block of Carroll Street. So Garrett Turner, who's a 33-year-old Victorian man, was held for tail bail on Thursday night and was brought into court on Friday morning. He now faces some updated charges. And those are setting a trap or device with intent to cause injury or death, possession for the purpose of trafficking, and possession of stolen property. So after the RCMP bomb disposal unit disabled the bomb, we went in and were able to conduct our full search. We did locate some other booby trap devices, including electrified doorknobs and rugs. So those were taken out. We also located, as far as the drugs, some methamphetamine, some heroin, and a large quantity of stolen property. So what we found out is that this fellow was dealing in stolen property. He appeared to be trading it for drugs that he was dealing. So numerous laptops, smartphones, iPads, and other electronic equipment were seized at the time. And we're going to be busy now trying to search through our database, trying to find out all the rightful owners of the property and get it returned. So we recognize that the neighbors were inconvenienced by the street closures and evacuations, and we certainly want to give our thanks and thank you for the understanding and the patience that they had for us. It was a long, drawn-out event for us and for the neighborhood, but we're glad that everybody ultimately was safe. So our primary goal was the safety and well-being of all the neighborhood members, and we're able to remove that potentially dangerous weapon.
Is he someone that police have dealt with before?
We've dealt with him. He's known to us, but it's not, mile-long rap sheet, right?
Mm-hmm. Any idea why the booby traps were all set?
We have suspicions, but that's about all it is right now. So,
Can you give us a value of the amount of drugs and or property that was in place?
we're still cataloging. So I don't have the drugs, the weight, but as far as the property goes, we're still cataloging all that. Just trying to determine what exactly was there. So,
No rough idea about the values, but maybe that's why he's got the booby trap or what?
no, I don't have an idea. No.
Several $1,000s worth of drugs.
Was it several thousand? Is that it? Okay. So I have several $1,000s worth of drugs.
So would you call that small, medium scale drug bust?
That's medium. Yeah.
Was there anybody else who lived in the suite with him?
Not as far as our information shows, no.
What about the rug? What was that? How was that?
From what we saw, there was a rug that had been electrified, right? That I don't know how it was done, but there is a current running through it, so.
Like the front doormat kind of thing, or?
I don't know where it was.
In the past, when we've had large seizures of stolen goods, the Victoria Police have sometimes posted things online so people who have lost their iPhone or whatever it is can look and see if they see something. Is that something we might have happen in this, or not enough?
Well, that is one of the investigative measures we have, but certainly we go through trying to find everybody in our database, and then just through the media release, things like this, people will call in, say I had my car stolen or something stolen from my car. So we try to get all that done first before we pare it down. So I don't know if it's something that we're going to be doing or not, but certainly something we have done.
So he was selling drugs and stolen property for cash out of the house?
No, it looked like it was an exchange. Okay. So you bring in some property and the drugs go sort of as an exchange that way.
And then how would he sell the stolen property? Would he sell it online? Like Craigslist?
No idea. Yeah. All right, here was a very bizarre file. Oh, sorry, Katie.
Have you been able to find out exactly what kind of bomb it was, like how he made it, whether he made it or not?
It did appear to be homemade, but I can't get into specifics about exactly how it was made. But it was, like I said before, last week, it would have caused fairly significant amount of damage. If somebody was in the building, certainly could have resulted in loss of life. But definitely would have blown out all the windows in the house and the neighboring houses as well.
So where was it being stored in the house?
I believe it was downstairs.
Like in his basement suite?
It was downstairs, yeah.
But was it wired in a way that it could go off along with the booby traps, or like what was?
I honestly don't know. I don't know whether it was joined with the booby traps, or whether it was a separate device on its own. I don't have that information.
And so he's been released on bail?
Yes, I don't know when the next court date is. Did you get the next court date?
I think it's June
We'll
30th.
check afterwards.
June 30th? Okay.
So what, do police have any more dealings with that suite? Like, is it still boarded up, or can it, is there
Well-
any sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's open. The resident's allowed to go back in. So we can't tell somebody not to go back to their own house, right? But yes, that's my understanding. Is that that's the way it works right now? All right, so a bizarre case from last Thursday where a man was seen throwing money off a rooftop, and that led us to a drug seizure. So we got a call about a man throwing money off a downtown rooftop, and that ultimately led to a drug arrest and search warrant on Thursday. So we received reports of a man who was standing on top of the Maycock Optical Building in the 1300 block of Blanchard Street, and he was throwing cash and marijuana off the roof. We did have a passerby who returned $1,340 in 20s that they did collect. And it was estimated that about a third of the money was that $1,300, so there's a lot more outstanding. Several other people collected the cash and the marijuana and made off. So our officers went to the rooftop to investigate and found the marijuana and cash strewn about up there. There are adjoining apartments to the building, and through one of the open windows, our officers saw a large sum of cash on a kitchen table. A man matching the description from earlier was also spotted inside the suite. A 33-year-old Victorian man climbed through an open window and onto the roof to speak with police. He admitted that the marijuana and money were his, but offered no explanation for his bizarre behavior. He was arrested for possession of a controlled substance, and police applied for a warrant to search his residence. So inside the suite, our officers found an additional $2,500 of cash and approximately 2 pounds of marijuana, which has about a street value of about $5,000. So the man is a known drug trafficker and now faces additional charges of possession for the purpose of trafficking and breaching. He was released on a promise to appear and scheduled to make his next court appearance on the 28th of July.
And even after going into his apartment and things, he had no explanation for...
No,
Is he formally charged? Can you release his name?
not formally charged. I'm waiting for charges to go through.
So possession for purpose of trafficking and,
And a breach.
okay.
And possession of controlled substance.
Yes, and possession of a controlled substance. Sorry, that was the earlier one.
You say somebody returned $1,300, I mean,
Yes.
that's only a third.
Speculated to be a third, but yes.
Speculating, but people don't have to return the rest of it because the guy was just throwing out his money, is that correct?
Well, he can do with his money what he wants, but we certainly have it back. The stuff that we do and the stuff that we seize from the suite is all going to be evidence for us and for our court case, so we certainly like to have it back.
So isn't there some sort of policy where if no one claims the money within a certain amount of days, the person who returned the money gets it back, can get it?
If it's money that's just found on the street, there is certain guidelines that sort of speak to that. But being as this is all part of our drug investigation, so we'll have to see what happens with the court process and what happens afterwards. I'm not sure what the process is. Once the court process is complete, I don't know how long after that the steps are taken to return it to somebody who would find it or whatever. So.
Officers on the scene, was there any indication that he may have been under the influence of drugs or alcohol at the time?
Yeah, we can surely speculate on that. I think that he was, safe to say.
Can I get that in full sentence?
Yes, you can, because that was very garbled and horrible. I think it's fair to speculate that he was under the influence of something when we arrived. All right. Pardon me. So 5 prolific vandals were arrested Saturday night we saw 5 prolific taggers arrested for 3 separate cases of graffiti vandalism in Victoria. 2 of the men arrested are considered the most prolific offenders in the Capital Regional District. And we know that tagging is not an art, it's not a victimless crime, and it causes significant property damage. It's unsightly, and it causes more graffiti, and often leads to further problems. As you know, by the broken window theory, graffiti comes and people don't clean it up, and more graffiti, and then it seems like a community doesn't care. There's been lots of community-driven events lately to get rid of graffiti in neighborhoods, such as pole painting and hydro box painting and things like that. So in the CRD, the estimated annual cost for graffiti removal is almost $1 million. And graffiti typically carries a charge of mischief, and a recent precedent-setting civil case in Langford saw a tagger forced to reimburse nearly $7,500 for damages. This recent spat of arrests came not as a part of a crackdown, but we have been fielding more complaints about this problem. So 2 men, known as the most prolific vandals in the CRD, were arrested at 2:30 a.m. in the 800 block of 4th Street. The 2 men spray painted the side of a building and attempted to run and hide from police, but were caught a short distance later. They were found with fresh paint on their hands and clothing, and with items around them as well. So a 26-year-old Saanich man and a 23-year-old Salt Spring Island man faced mischief charges and were released on a promise to appear for July 28th. It was only hours earlier that police arrested 2 taggers at 12:30 a.m. in the 500 block of Belleville Street. Legislative security called police after spotting 2 males tagging bus shelters in the area. Our officers arrested the 2 beside some fresh graffiti and found spray cans and markers in their possession. 2 Victoria youth faced mischief charges and were also given promise to appear for July 28th. A 3rd man was arrested tagging a building in the 300 block of Waterfront Crescent. Security contacted police and the attending officers caught him in the act. That is a 25-year-old Victorian man, and he now faces a charge of mischief and again promised to appear for July 28th.
If these 5 are so well known to the police, what sort of charges are they going to be facing now? Because, I mean, obviously they are known, they keep on doing it. Granted, Langford case sets precedent, but what is going to happen? What sort of sentence will they, or charge will they be facing?
Well, they're going to face mischief for now, and it depends on the circumstances. There may be a global count of mischief if we're able to link more of the tags to them. We have a fairly big database, and it's run by one of our officers. She tracks with the other members of the CRD graffiti throughout our area. So we have to look at that globally, and she'll provide her input into the file as well. So it may be a global charge of mischief with many counts included in it, or it may be just this one. It's hard to say right now.
With the 2 who are known as prolific offenders for mischief and graffiti, do you have any idea what their tag is?
We typically don't release the tags. We don't release, we don't talk about it, we don't release the pictures of it. Basically the reason for that is that it gives more credentials to them, and they think that, oh geez, now my picture's in the news, and look, now everybody can see what I do. So we typically just shy away from that.
So the Salt Spring Island guy, does he primarily live on Salt Spring Island, or is he since relocated to CRD?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the information we have is the last address of Salt Spring Island.
So when you talk about they're the most prolific, would they be doing this at different places on a daily basis, or how?
With the amount of tags, it would be more on an hourly basis. There are tags everywhere bearing these 2 signatures. Very prolific. And like I said, we have a committee that we sit with on the whole CRD, from Langford, West Shore, Oak Bay. We all sit together and we share the information and try to make sure it's as accurate and up to date as possible.
Are mischief charges an adequate deterrent? Obviously, if you've got prolific guys and they keep doing it, you keep arresting them and you keep slapping them with mischief charges, is it an adequate deterrent to try and stop these guys?
It is one of the deterrents that we have, one of the measures that we're able to have for us. And it depends, repeat times, what the sentences are. But there's also other options for us as well. The City of Victoria has a bylaw, it's a graffiti bylaw, and anybody caught doing graffiti can be charged with a $750 ticket. So that does carry a lot of weight as well. So there are multiple avenues available for us. Charges typically are the ones that we go with though.
So could they also face were they also given a bylaw ticket?
Typically you can't do them concurrently, and the reason is that it's sort of double jeopardy. You can't give a ticket for a criminal offense that you're doing the same thing on, right?
Is there any kind of estimate as to, like, the two most prolific, as to the amount of damage that they cause in a given year, like a dollar figure?
Well, I think these two are part of that $1 million that the CRD spends, so I can't break it down, but it's a ton of work, to get these off. You look at the clean team from Downtown Victoria Business Association, they removed over almost 5,000 tags last year from the downtown area. And you combine that with what you still see out there, and you can just think of what a problem this is. All right. There's no other questions on that one. We'll get to our last one here. So we had a man who bit officers during a fight inside a local pub. 23-year-old Esquimalt man was arrested on Sunday morning after a long protracted fight inside Swan's pub around 1:30 in the morning. He ended up biting 3 Victoria police officers in the melee. What we had discovered was the man was causing a disturbance inside the pub. He was yelling, swearing, and heavily intoxicated. Our officers were outside, actually across the road, on an unrelated call, but the man's yelling from inside the pub was so loud that they had to go inside and investigate. The officer approached the man inside, but he ducked away into the men's bathroom. So our officers waited outside the washroom, and after his apparent bathroom break, he became argumentative with officers after the questioning that they had given him. The man became combative and began fighting with officers inside the pub, even though our officers were trying to get him outside. He bit one of the officers on the knee, one of our officers on the leg, and another on the arm. The bite to the knee actually broke the skin through his patrol pants, and he had to be taken to the hospital for a tetanus shot. One of our other officers, who was assisting, injured his hand in the fight. The man was eventually restrained and booked into cells. So Michael David Hill is facing 3 charges of assault police officer and 1 charge of causing a disturbance. He was the subject of a telebail hearing and is due back in court on June 22nd. He is 23 years old.
Sorry, what night was this?
This was Sunday morning.
You said hand and arm, is that this,
Different officers.
So we're 4 injured in.
Sorry, same officer for hand and arm bites, different officer for hand injury and for the knee injury. 3 officers.
but 4 bites?
3 bites, 2 on 1 officer.
No,
2, no.
one to the knee,
1 to the knee,
one to the leg,
1 to the leg.
one to the arm,
Right.
and one of the officers had injured his hand, not as a result of the bite, but as a result of the fight.
Oh, okay. Thank you, I mixed those up.
And sorry, did you say that Mr. Hill is known to you guys?
We've had limited involvement with them.
The officer whose hand was injured, was that a 4th officer or one of the 3 who was also in?
One of the
One of
three.
the 3, okay.
And with his initial yelling and outburst that drew police in,
Mhm.
what was that about? Do we have any idea? What was he so riled up about?
It was a lot of profanity. He was yelling and screaming inside the pub. And you have to appreciate that Swans isn't, it's not a loud club. It's somewhere that's considered a little classier, right? It's got a nice hotel attached to it. So when you're yelling loud enough that through the windows our officers can hear you across the street, certainly gets our attention.
Was he yelling at somebody or?
He was yelling at people and at our officers and just generally carrying on inside the pub.
Can you account anyhow for the level of, force that he had, like with 3 officers, a long struggle?
You know, he was a very big guy, and you have to appreciate the two officers that came, and I'll throw myself under the bus on this one, they weren't my size, right? They were big 200-plus pound guys that were fighting with this individual initially, and they had to call a 1033, which is our emergency officer in distress, and had to get numerous other officers there to just help subdue him. I think it took over 5 officers at the end of the day to get him under control.
But you notice he hasn't been charged with being impaired or anything like that, or public drunkenness or anything like that.
No, that's typically a bylaw ticket or a provincial ticket where we go with the criminal charges. It's more substantive.
And so causing a disturbance would be a more serious matter.
Yeah, the 3 counts of assaulting a police officer, and then the one of causing a disturbance. That's kind of lumped in. We just kind of spoke of that initially. It's kind of lumped in. So you wouldn't give a liquor ticket and causing a disturbance because being drunk in public is part of why you caused a disturbance. So it kind of fits in there. So.
Do you know whether he was on any other drugs or anything like that?
We don't know for sure, but with the fight that he put up, we certainly suspect it.
Was it taser used?
No.
Was he taken for any kind of psychological evaluation or that kind of thing?
No, none of that stuff. We have to have pretty solid evidence to be requesting a psych remand or things like that, and there is nothing that presented itself in this case. So.
So does he have a court date or?
Yeah, June 22nd. He'll be back on court June 22nd, so 2 days, Thursday, Wednesday.